This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety, so go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Hi, everyone. Today on the show, we have the founder and CEO of RVnGO, Paul Kacir. RVnGO is the fastest growing RV rental marketplace in America. And after listening to the episode, you will find out why. Paul throws us a curveball right at the start of the interview with an announcement of launching a new service called CampnGo. The two companies will be working together to provide a one-stop shop for RV rental and a place to camp. Paul developed new software for both systems, allowing the rental experience to flow smoothly. You do not need to rent an RV, though, to use the CampnGo service. If you already own your RV, you will still be able to use CampnGo to search and reserve a campsite all online. He has also created an RV insurance company to make sure the renter and the rentee are protected during the rental periods. So let's jump into the conversation with Paul.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with RVnGO?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kenny and Sean, on Beyond the Wheel podcast. So I'm Paul Kacir. I'm the founder and CEO of RVnGO, and really came up with the idea a few years ago on a drive from Phoenix to Vancouver. My background is economics, corporate law, and business. And I was thinking on that drive about the beauty of the Airbnb model. And I thought, what can I do similar to that? And what I really loved about the Airbnb model was it brings people together and it lets them, in an economic sense, monetize their utility function for the property they already bought. And so I thought to myself, well, what class of underutilized assets are there out there? And on that drive, passing one RV after another for 3 days, I came up with the idea for RVnGO.
And you just shared actually something with us right before we started recording.
CampnGo. So you guys have a world exclusive on the announcement. What RVnGO does is bring people closer together with what's called a peer-to-peer website that lets people rent their RVs directly to people who want to rent them. And you could be an individual with one RV, or you can be an individual with a fleet of RVs, or we're getting fleets coming aboard. And we believe in bringing people closer together at RVnGO, and we're doing that by making the RVnGO platform free. So bringing people closer together also goes to our business model. We don't believe in putting another middleman into the system or taking a fee without providing a service for it. So we're taking all those fees out and all those services out, and we make our money at RVnGO with compelling value-added services. And the first one is the rental insurance for the rental. And we went direct to wholesale at Lloyd's and in Delaware to underwriters and basically created our own insurance product. And it is compelling in its own right. It provides better coverage for premiums that are less than competing products. And on top of that, the platform's free. We realized one of the problems when people do rent an RV is they don't know necessarily where to go. So out of that realization was born CampnGo. And that is a peer-to-peer site for campgrounds where individuals can go and find a campground. And there's over 12,000 private campgrounds in the United States. Think, RV parks, KOA, private campsites. And they can list their campsites on the platform, and it's the same thing. It's free to list, and there's no transaction fees for the host. And the guests can go find them. And the really exciting thing at CampnGo, this year, the federal government also made public the software interface, or the API, to be able to book federal campsites directly. So on our platform, you'll be able to book a federal campsite, and there's over 4,000. There's 58 national parks, but think of all the Forestry Service and Forest Reserve parks. So that's really exciting. On one site, you'll be able to, book basically anything in the United States, and it'll be all integrated. So when you rent your RV, you'll be presented with available campsites. We'll ask you where you're going, and you'll be presented with available campsites during your days and that are suitable for your RV. And vice versa for CampnGo, why don't you upgrade and go glamping in an RV?
Yeah, that's a perfect marriage. I feel like this is the first time I've ever heard of something like that before, where you'll be able to rent your RV and book your campground all together on one site. Like you're saying, it just made perfect sense, but nobody's ever done it before, as far as I know.
Nobody has done it before. We're the first, and we're really excited. I think it's gonna help bring people together. And at the CampnGo side, the only fees would be a transaction fee, a small fee paid by the guest of 5%, and that really covers the credit card and processing, and that's really it. And if they want, we're going to feature on CampnGo a campsite view, just like Google Street Views, same idea, where you can go through the campsites and see the actual campsites. And we're building that up, but we've already working on putting in over 30,000 photos of campsites all over the US and 3,000 videos. So you can then see the actual campsite, see the view, see that there's an overhanging branch that won't work with your RV or whatever. But if you like the site, you can reserve that specific site. And there'll be like a site-specific reservation fee, and go from there. You don't have to pay it. And usually campsites you just get first come, first serve, and we would book it that way. But we'll have the technology to book specific campsites.
That's going to be awesome. That'll be a game changer just in its own, because you really never know what you're going to get until you show up a lot of times. And sometimes it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't work with your size RV. But on the other side of that, it'd just be nice to be able to pick like Sabrina and I. My wife and I, we have a small dog, and if we can ever get a corner site, we like the corner site because it gives us a little bit more grass to be able to let our dog out. So something like that, that's wonderful.
Yeah, we're excited about it. Yeah, the idea is, you can sort on our site, find an RV, whether it's pet friendly or not. Also, we're going to map so that, some sections of a campground might not be accessible to a larger RV or a tow trailer, even though there's RV sites further on down that path. So we're also going to be mapping the sites and determining that as we go. So yeah, some of the ideas we've got coming there.
So it's pretty interesting that you developed, or you basically came up with a different type of insurance that really caters to the RV rental market. Part of that is the roadside assistance that you guys have included. Was that originally with the program, or was that something you recently added?
Well, the roadside assistance is provided by CoachNet. That's our provider there. And people who are renting an RV can opt for it. But I did want to talk a little bit about our insurance program. For people who are renting their RVs, in the past, they had to carry fairly expensive commercial rental insurance, and it was a monthly premium that the owner had to pay. And you really needed to have that insurance, because if you're renting without special rental insurance, your RV, it is, I can't say always because I haven't read every insurance policy in the United States, but there isn't one that I've seen that ever permits it. From the owner's point of view, it's a commercial transaction and it is 100% excluded from coverage. So the owner has no coverage when that RV is out if it's damaged. And heaven forbid, if there's an accident, somebody's hurt and it was, your negligence because the axle fell off or whatever, and you should have known, that kind of thing. So the owner is kind of standing very exposed. And for the guest, it's even worse. When you go to the airport and you rent a car, your existing car insurance still applies. And what you're buying is supplemental insurance. Almost all car policies exclude RV rentals, and completely excluded. So you have no coverage when you rent that RV. And the deal is, look, we were insuring you for a Volkswagen or a Chevy, and here you are renting a bus that's $200,000. Yeah. No, out of bounds. That's not what your premium covers. So in effect, you can't really decline insurance as a guest because you're really illegal to be on the road. If you get pulled over and you don't have any insurance, handcuffs. So what we had to do was build a product from the ground up that covers the first dollar of loss and allows you to be on the road. And we did that, again, with underwriters at Lloyd's of London and in Delaware. We changed the economics for the host as well. They don't have to pay any premiums. It's a nightly premium paid by the guest. So that does two things. For people who are in the fleet, like professional rental industry, it really removes a huge cost that they have in the off season and lets them, I hope, carry more RVs and do more business and bring more people closer together. And really changes their economics. You know, they can lower their price because they're not carrying their insurance. And our insurance is the same price as their monthly insurance. It's just kind of calculated over a nightly rate as opposed to a monthly rate. And for people who may not want to get into the RV rental business full time, but we're thinking of renting their RVs, you know, what was stopping them before was, okay, I want to rent my RV, but now I have to start paying this extremely expensive monthly premium. And, you know, this isn't a casual gig anymore. I have to do this pretty much full time to pay for the insurance. So we changed that all around, and we want people to come aboard. And maybe you just want to rent out to the really high demand weekends in your area. That could be, you know, local Country Thunder or NASCAR or Burning Man, you know, sucks up RVs from the entire Western United States go there. And really hit those peak demands. And, you know, if you do only 2 or 3 high demand weekends, like July 4th, which is like the Super Bowl of RVing, you can pretty much pay for your RV for the year. And again, that helps bring people closer together.
It sounds like you removed a real pain point for those that wanted to rent their RV as far as insurance coverage goes. That was a real pain point for people that wanted to do it, like you said, part-time. Does that also reduce the cost to rent from like a consumer that wants to rent an RV? Does that?
Yeah, we think so. We have the lowest prices on our platform because we this summer benchmarked ourselves to some competing listing sites that might be fairly well known out there. And we were literally half the price that they were. And the reason is they tend to charge 30 to 32% in fees, and they split it up between the guest and host. We don't charge the host anything, and we just charge the guest at RVnGO a 3% credit card fee. That's it. And then you buy the nightly insurance premium, and it's all presented to you up front. You know exactly what you're getting. There's no upselling or bait and switch. So, you know, because it's 50% less on our site and the hosts aren't getting dinged with any fees, we see lower fees on our platform. We also see people, if they're just even have their own RV rental business, small fleets or even large fleets, you know, they have to carry their insurance, they have to do all their marketing costs. If they come aboard our platform, you know, they tend to save 18 to 20%. So they can either reduce their prices or make more money, which if they didn't reduce their prices would double their profit. And so we are seeing people kind of going halfway, reducing their prices. And so you just get a really great deal. You're just not going to get a better rate or price anywhere when you see that RV on RVnGO. You know, what the hosts tend to do is mark up the prices to cover the fees on other platforms. And so we just want to bring people closer together. And one way to do that is make sure that those RVs are as inexpensive as possible. And the same thing's going to happen in the camping space. You know, we don't charge any fees. We're going to remove all their software costs and, you know, some marketing costs and just help them get people to their campsites, higher utilization. And since there's really no fees, again, we'll be the lowest price out there for those campgrounds, including the federal campgrounds, and we're all set.
It's going to make it a lot easier for the consumer as well to get into these campsites, I would imagine, because right now it's not that easy all the time to book a campsite. It's a lot of phone calls. Sometimes it's a lot of emails back and forth, but if this is going to be all done online, it's going to be very beneficial to the campgrounds.
Yeah, you know, we've really looked at the market and going through some of the older ways of doing business, and you're faxing and sending forms back and forth and you're calling, you know, it really takes up a huge amount of time for both the host and the guest. And we call, you know, people who are renting out the hosts, and we call the guests that are coming in to be the guests of those hosts. We've benchmarked that, and that process can be anywhere from 2 to 6 hours of time before the rental, just making the arrangement, going through contracts and everything. On our platform for guests, you just search and you can literally either click and book now, which we're just introducing. So it's like renting a car and it's all done. But that's a little bit on the host to make sure, everything's up to date and they're ready to accept that. The usual way of doing it is you send an inquiry. You don't have to pay. There might be a little bit of back and forth. The host just making sure that the RV is available and suitable for what they want to do. And then you book it. But it changes hours to minutes. And that's just really powerful. And also, it can be hard to find an RV to rent because when you search, you'll be presented with 20, 30 dealerships, and each one will have a different website. You can go there. You have to go there. Some will only take phones. Some don't do chat. Some require an email. Each one has a different insurance policy. I mean, it's bewildering. And so we just made it really simple. And we have fleets coming aboard. Well, can we keep our insurance? And we go, no. First of all, our insurance is better, and we want everybody to know it's consistent across the board. So you don't have to go through the brain damage of figuring out all this nonsense. We kind of took that all out and makes your decision really easy to compare apples to apples. This is all straight up. And then the other part we found was, okay, I did my 2 or 3 or 6 hours of homework to get my RV. Now what? I don't even know where to go camping, and everything seems to be sold out. It's really hard, and I got to go again to one website after another. The federal lands, there used to be a reservation system that was really expensive and was really clunky and didn't work, and you couldn't pick your campsite or anything like that. Well, we wanted to fix all that as well, just make it automatic. So right there, as you finish your booking, will be all the campsites in the area you're going, and you can do multiple days, whatever, and start booking all those campsites. And there, part of the vision here is kind of an outdoor experience and just helping people bring it together.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been a full-time RVer for 5 years, and we still have trouble booking sites. So somebody that's renting is probably not an experienced RVer. This is going to be, if they can just go to one site, do their rental, and then find a campground, it's going to make the whole experience start off on the right foot.
Right. And if you wanted to, for $20 in addition, you can specify the campsite, specific campsite, with the picnic table just the way you want it, overlooking the lake.
You're really going to spoil these people.
That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here to bring people together. And again, the business model is to kick out middlemen that don't add any value services and just, make our living off compelling value-added services. So when people talk about us, the shorthand, one sentence introduction, I tell people it's like, we're sort of like Airbnb for RVs, but Airbnb charges 15 to 30% by the time you add it up on both sides in fees. We don't charge any, just the credit card fee to the guest because we don't want to go bankrupt. And then we just live off value-added services like insurance, like reserve your specific campsite. And if you don't want it, in this case of insurance, you have to take it because it would be illegal. But we really made it better than anything else out there. And so far, adoption's going great. We're going gangbusters.
RVnGO is the fastest growing RV rental market space. Do you believe it's because of the ease of use? Do you think that's what's driving you guys to grow so fast, just how easy it is?
Yes, I'd like to think so. I mean, I have a favorite saying of mine is there's 2 unstoppable forces in the universe, sugar and economics. So, everybody can work with their sugar thing, but on economics, we would just want to make sure we nailed that. So that's really driving a huge amount of growth, but also ease of use. We're seeing large fleets come aboard our site who have never come aboard competing listing sites because they just couldn't stomach the 40%, 45% in fees that are lost in the transaction. But what really makes me happy and our development team, we built our platform from the ground up. It took a little bit longer. It cost a little bit more. But we're in complete control of it, and we can make changes that are responsive to our users. And we're seeing big fleets who have tried to use competing sites and even their own software that they use to run their existing businesses. And they come on our site and go, wow, this is really clear and easy to use. And there's no easier way to find out. I'd encourage people to come to www.rvngo.com and check it out. And it's just really simple. We don't believe in hiding anything. So, other sites you need to go through 5 or 6 or 7 screens going through a questionnaire, and you kind of forgot where you started by the time you finish your insurance coverage. Ours is just real simple. It's just like, here's your amount. It's right up there up front. Send the inquiry and you're done. So there's no surprises. And it's a true peer-to-peer platform. And what I mean by that is we put people directly in touch with each other. And so when they communicate, it goes through our software, but it's instant. We don't intercept it and shop leads around. If somebody is interested in your campsite or your RV and they send you an inquiry or a message, it has to come to you. We don't intercept it or shop it around. Now, if there's a problem, the host can't accommodate the transaction, we'll try and place the person with another RV, but that's all direct communication. Most listing sites are not like that. You're really sending in an email form to a travel agent or another middleman, and somebody getting in the way and charging a fee and then shopping it around, etc.
Can you walk us through how a rental process would work for someone? Let's say I wanted to go RV this weekend somewhere. I hopped on your site. What's kind of walk us through the process of how you would do that?
Sure. It's very much similar for people who have ever tried using either Expedia or Airbnb or VRBO. It's almost identical in workflow. So you come on the site, it's free to look around. I mean, everything's free, but you can look around, you can do searches. So once you find your RV you like, and you can search RVs, and in the campsites will be the same thing by, type of RV, features you want, pet friendly, smoking friendly, etc. And you can specify your dates and class, whatever way you want to slice and dice it. And if it's really important for you to have a CD player, you can even specify those kind of features. And then you'll be presented with results that are local in the area where you want to pick it up. And once you find it, and then you can look at each RV, look at the specs, look at, the details. There's photos on the site. There's detailed descriptions and lists that our hosts have put up, photos of the host. And I just want to also say, when you look on our site, every RV you see on there is real and is ready to be rented. A lot of other sites have phony inventory or stale inventory or, have quote unquote scraped listings from the internet. And these people don't even know they're on their sites. On our site, every RV you see on there, the host has given us their ID, their information, their banking info, the VIN number, has also validated their banking info with us so that we can pay them out, and that's all legit. And finally has done a test transaction with us. So that's what it feels like to become a host. We really help onboard you so you're ready to take transactions. As a guest, so you find the RV, it's real, and you send an inquiry to the host. And hopefully they're responsive. Most of them are. If they're not, we try to follow up and make sure they are responding. And if you do find RV you like, you send an inquiry, the host can accept it, and then it goes into payment mode. And if it's more than a week out, you pay the booking deposit. And then a week before the reservation, we automatically debit the card on file for the remainder of the balance and let everybody know payment is ready to go. We send a reminder to you before that payment comes out just to make sure it's all covered. And then on day of pickup, also before the reservation, we send out kind of a, RVing tip email. And then there's lots of resources on the site to help you with RVing. But frankly, the best resources are the hosts, and they might give you a manual or, communicate ahead of time to make sure the trip is as smooth as possible and as enjoyable as possible. And then when you show up at the host at the, where you've agreed to exchange the RV, you do a check-in, and that's online with your phone on the site, on the mobile site, or, if it's at a dealership, they might do it off their laptop. And you literally would upload, you'll need to upload your driver's license. We'll take a photo of it and it's uploaded. You also can note any pre-existing damage, take photos, take an odometer reading if there's, if it's not a trailer, take a generator hour reading, and then you go on your trip. And when you come back, it's the same thing on checkout. And if there was mileage, there'd be an ending odometer reading. And if you went over, then automatically calculates the overage charge. And if there's any incidental fees, takes care of it all there. So that's the experience. Obviously, you need an account as a guest to go through that process. And all we need there is your driver's license, which we do validate, and some questions about your driving history that you need to answer just to make sure you're kind of able to do this. And the questions are, you haven't had a DUI or a vehicular manslaughter, things like that.
Yeah. And it's essentially
before we, tap you on the back and insure you and send you on your merry way in our $200,000 RV.
And it's essentially paperless then.
It is paperless.
Done.
Everything's paperless. Great. Even when you have your reservation and you're checked in, you get a email PDF of your, rental contract and your certificate of insurance. So you can show that on your phone, and you can, obviously just print that if you wanted to keep that in your glove box. But, if you download that email and it's in your buffer, you can always just use that.
And then the pricing, Paul, are you guys coming up with the idea, or do you give the host a guideline of what they should be charging depending on the area that they live in and things like that, and the RV itself, or do they come up with all that on their own?
Really, it's up to the guest to price it whichever way they want. It's their little mini business, whether they rent it once a year or they have a fleet of 100 and they're in thousands of times a year. So in the future, we will be giving some business analytics to people and just kind of put them in the range. Okay. But what most people do is they'll go online and go, okay, I've got a class A, whatever, certain length, and they'll look up similar RVs in their area and they'll just kind of price accordingly. So that's the easiest way. That's very much like Airbnb. Airbnb doesn't really set your prices at all. It doesn't even give you guidance. And so what most people do is kind of try and find rentals that are similar to them and then kind of price accordingly if they don't know what the market is. People who rent basically full-time professionally, whether they have a fleet of 1 or fleet of 100, know where that price point is, but they're free to set that. I will add one thing. You can also, coming soon, set seasonal or spot rates for each RV. So if there's like a high demand event, either July 4th generally, or a local, NASCAR event or Country Thunder or concert or festival, you can change the price for that. And you can also change the price generally over the season. So, during peak season, we see obviously higher prices than the off season. And in some places, they just mark it as completely unavailable. If you're living in Minnesota, you're not renting that RV in January.
I'm just curious, when we do seminars at RV shows, we always tell people if they're considering buying an RV to rent a similar one first, just to make sure before they make that big investment that it is something that they like and they'll enjoy living in or traveling in. It seems like over the last couple of years, the RV rental business has grown tremendously. Do you have any thoughts on what is that attributed to?
I think you're right. And we're waiting for data to come out by the industry association, the RV rental association. But it'll be another year or two before they do their kind of every 10-year survey. But just the sense in the market that rentals is extremely popular. And we're seeing two types of renters. The people who may be considering buying an RV or would like to buy it, but really haven't saved up the money, but still want to enjoy the RV lifestyle. And they tend to be, families, young children in that category. And certainly you can do that on RVnGO. And we have a lot of dealerships that have, RVs for sale, but they rent them on our platform with the idea that you kind of try them out and then eventually own them. And we're also seeing a lot of younger renters, millennials and up, that might want just an experience with their friends, not necessarily a family outing, but just experience with their friends. They're so plugged in this world that sometimes you just need to go out and recharge your batteries by unplugging, and being out in the world. So that we see that extremely popular. And I think the same is kind of a resurgence in camping amongst millennials, but there's definitely a preference towards, okay, I want to go camping, but I don't really want to go that much camping. So that's where we see a nice upgrade to, there'll be campgrounds and facilities that you can just filter by glamping. And, we're not sure what that means, but we'll let people decide. Or again, upgrade to an RV. At least you're not sleeping on the ground. It could even be just a trailer. It makes a huge difference from on the ground experience.
Yeah, I always say that RVing, I always consider RVing nothing like camping. I've done camping and I've done RVing. I really don't think the two are the same thing at all. And people look at me crazy when I say that, but it's a completely different experience in RV. It's more like glamping. It's very comfortable to be in
Yeah.
an RV and to have a bed and not sleeping in a sleeping bag on the ground.
Yeah. And some RVs on our site and out there are far nicer than a nice Hyatt hotel room. So, and you get like a whole suite out of it. And it's just, and then you got a great view of wherever you've parked that RV. And, some people say it's expensive. Well, so is that Hyatt suite. And camping in an RV is a lot less expensive, than lighting that campfire inside your hotel room and trying to roast marshmallows.
RVing is it honestly is a wonderful experience. My wife and I have been full-time and for 3 years. We had no RVing experience or know anything about camping or anything like this. And we meet the nicest people while you're at the campgrounds. It's a great community I always say, like, we've been to hundreds of hotels and nobody has ever came up to me and said, "Hey, can I help carry your bag somewhere?" But we've been to campgrounds and people come up to us and say, "Hey, you look like you're having a little bit of an issue. Can I lend a hand?" It's a completely different experience.
I think it's great. And part of the idea is we want people to be able to experience that. And that's what RVnGO and CampnGo is in the business of doing.
So right now, how many RV rentals do you have listed on your site?
We're in the thousands now.
Oh, okay.
And we are talking to, we'll announce it, but again, everything you see on our site is solid inventory. We're literally talking to the largest fleet in America is Cruise America. We're talking to the second, third, and fourth largest fleets to all come aboard and use this platform. And they're pretty excited about it. It solves a lot of problems because even though they're big, they're still one of thousands of websites that people need to check to find. And there's really no downside for people listing their RVs, whether they have a fleet of one or are casual about it or have a fleet of 10 on our site. We solved a lot of their, all of their issues, particularly with the insurance. And it's really a complete business solution. It's a full, we hear from our hosts, smaller independent fleets. It's like, look, you've solved our biggest problem when we rent our RV. We know how to clean RVs, we know how to maintain them, we know how to make people happy RVing, but we don't know how to create a website. We just had to get some developer to do that, and it's not that great. We make it real easy on our site for people to list their RV and get out on the internet and have people find them. And even if they create a website, they don't know how to drive traffic to their website. You become one of 13 trillion websites and you're ranked number 13 trillion. I mean, you got to start scraping your way up from there. I think that's one of the big paradoxes, and I don't want to go in a side tangent here, but I think it's one of the big paradoxes of the internet is it's a communication tool that actually keeps people apart. And that's the hardest part, is bringing people to your website and letting them know where you are and what you're doing. And we solve that for people. And then even if they bring people to the website, they don't have an online e-commerce solution. They got to go get that programmed. We provide that. And they don't have an online booking calendar. We provide that. Even if they built an online calendar, it's not connected to their back office systems that run their fleet, and they're still breaking down to spreadsheets and paper calendars. We solve that as well, all for free. And at the end of the day, they still have to pay their monthly commercial rental premium. And we've solved that. We made that go away, and the guest pays it on a daily rate. We're hearing that in the RV industry. There's about it's dominated by about 3,000 independent fleet operators. And each one on average has 20 to 25 units. And the biggest fleets out there are only 1, 2, or 3,000 units. So it's a highly fragmented industry. And the same thing applies. We're hearing it over and over again in the camping industry. I own a campground. I had a nice property with a river running through it. I put up 20 campsites, but I don't know how to create a website. I don't know how to drive people to it, et cetera. And all the same issues, and we're bringing the solutions.
Yeah, that's interesting because I just had a friend who just bought a campground in Arkansas, and it had been closed down for a couple of years. And so they're slowly trying to bring it back up. And that's one thing that they mentioned that they're struggling with is building that website, getting that word out there that there is a campground in this town in Arkansas that's available for people to rent.
Right. And CampnGo will solve that
Yeah.
And people can post onto CampnGo photos of it. It's going to be a peer-to-peer as well. It's like Yelp for campgrounds, and so people will be able to see the exact campsite, and both on RVnGO and CampnGo, people can review each other and really talk about the great experiences they've had, and then that'll help guide other people to going there. But yeah, it's exactly the scenario and the problem we're trying to solve in the camping space.
For the RVnGO and the host, I guess this would be similar for the CampnGo as well. How do they use? You had mentioned there's a calendar. Do they click the dates for themselves that are available for the RV, and then if they change their mind, can they take it back down easily?
Yeah, I mean, it's real simple. This is an audio only. I mean, we could do a screen share, but it's real simple. They would just go to their RV and just gray out the dates that they don't want it rented out,
Okay.
and it's just a click. And then if they want to change their mind, they just click it again and it becomes available immediately. So if they want to take it out for that week or that's their vacation, then they can block it out and it won't show up in searches for people who are trying to travel that week. They won't get solicited, they won't get inquiries that, they have to just say no to, and it kind of filters it automatically. It'll also filter it if you do have a booking. It won't send you another inquiry for that same date. You're already taken.
How long has RVnGO been operational?
I really came up with this idea on that drive a little over 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, we kind of did our alpha site. 2 years ago, our beta site. At the end of 2018, the summer was really when we got our first dollar of revenue, and we missed the summer, but we introduced our insurance at the end of summer. It took a while to get to the underwriters and get agreement and create that product. And it is a unique product that we helped design with the underwriters specifically to address RVing needs. And then really this summer was a great breakout summer where we just saw rapid growth and adoption. And the industry was kind of hoping that some of the problems that started to develop last year with some competing sites kind of cutting off internet traffic and then kind of holding it hostage for 30-40% fees would go away, and it didn't. And so we were the beneficiaries of that, and really have seen a rapid adoption, and we're really looking forward to next year. And I think, with an integrated CampnGo feature and where you can see the campsite and reserve the specific campsite, I think it's just going to be a great experience for people. And we might have a few other surprises coming up before then.
Oh, great. Yeah.
When does the CampnGo launch, or has it launched already?
We just have a holding site right now. We're working on it, and we are planning to have it kind of fully integrated and launched by March.
So just in time for the season.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
So there might be some earlier versions of it out there that people can start to work with, but that is the existing plan, working hard towards that.
And are you starting in the US and then expanding to Canada, or will you?
Yeah, right now we're focused. RVnGO is really, I mean, anybody could list anywhere in the world, and we get listings sometimes from all over the world, but we, ask the host to take it down because the insurance is very kind of jurisdiction specific. So it only covers the United States. And so we just don't want people to think somehow there's insurance in Canada or France or whatever.
Right.
So RVnGO is strictly US. There are future plans, but that's to expand geographically, but that's going to be really driven by insurance. And that's kind of more of a negotiating, underwriting, legal process than anything else. CampnGo, there's really nothing to stop it being international, and it will be. It's the internet, so you can't really stop it, and it's the same idea anywhere. Anybody can rent anywhere. And but right now the videos and the photos and everything we have are all focused on the United States. But there's in the campground, the street view of the campground, that's really a peer-to-peer driven, like a Yelp for campgrounds. So if somebody lists their RV, their campsite in Germany, we won't go there and map it like we're doing with with American campsites, but peer-to-peer people could do it, and they could take the photos, they could upload video. So it's still better than anything else out there. Yeah. And the same economics would apply. We'll start introducing it where there'll be localized versions in Germany and France and UK. So camping's a little bit easier. It's less restrained by the insurance problem.
Going back to the insurance, I've been thinking about this since we first started talking today. Is that insurance model that you've set up, is that exclusive to RVnGO?
Yeah, it's our product. We are like, Geico or National or whatever. It's our product. We use, at this stage, if we don't have the scale or legal status to do certain things, or, we're not registered in a particular state to be the auto provider, we use agents, but they're really our agents through our product.
Oh, that's really
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's a great model for, I mean, what something obviously made you think I need I need to change the insurance model before launching the site or launching the product.
Yeah.
What drove that?
Yeah. When I was on that drive, what was really the founding thought of RVnGO was I've been associated with some pretty successful companies, and I was the general counsel, and I took public First Solar, which was a large solar manufacturer in the US. When I joined them, nobody had heard of them. And it was a rocket ship ride. And when we were going public, we would go to it was Goldman Sachs and Credit Suisse and Morgan Stanley at the time. And we were selling our solar panels for half the price of anyone else. And we were making twice as much money as anyone else. And they weren't the same people. We would go into the investor banker meetings, and one of the junior bankers would always ask, hey, why don't you guys raise your prices? And First Solar was a legacy project of John Walton, the heir of Sam Walton of the Walmarts. And he really wanted that, to bring cheap solar energy to the world as his legacy. When the bankers asked that about, why don't you raise your prices? Mike Ahern, who was the CEO, you could just kind of see the steam rising off his ears. And it kind of echoed right out of the Walmart boardroom. And he would always say, once you have pricing power, you never give it away. And that's what we've been trying to achieve. And the other thing is, well, all right, how do you get pricing power? And, Amazon has huge pricing power. Walmart has huge pricing power. They don't have a secret biotech patent. They don't have a secret formula for Coca-Cola. They don't have anything like that. They just have pricing power. And you get that by working really hard to get the economies working in your favor. And you do that by every part of the value chain that a customer touches. You got to figure out the value chain for every product or every service. And whatever the customer touches, you try and control as much of that. And you try and cut out as many middlemen as you can. And that's how you get pricing power. And then you decide what to do with it. You can either keep your prices the way they are, you never raise them, but make more money, or you can keep driving down. That was the fundamental backdrop for the idea that this is one integrated company, one profit center. It's a software company that thinks like an insurance company. It's an insurance company that thinks like a software company. That makes it really hard for an insurance company to replicate. Makes it really hard for a software company to replicate. And we just keep cutting out middlemen and creating more pricing power. And the reason today, and it's kind of ironic that it's the same as First Solar when it went public, we're half the price of competing sites. And that's because they have two profit centers. They have an insurance company that's trying to make as much money as they possibly can. And then they have a listing platform that's trying to make as much money as they possibly can. We don't have anywhere in our beliefs or mission statement, go make profit. We believe in bringing people closer together. Profits are a consequence, not a goal.
Ah, that's a good saying right there. I like that. Yeah, it's really about the experience for the people, and then that'll bring the profit.
Right. Loyal and happy customers and returning customers make for happy shareholders.
Besides the insurance, which I think was a big challenge for you to develop, what have been some other challenging aspects of starting RVnGO and then expanding to CampnGo?
Yeah, it's like any startup, and we did start up from scratch. So the software was pretty hard to write. It took a couple of years, and we continue to evolve it, but it's ours, and we own all the code and we understand all the code. So if we want to change something, we're not using any templates or any legacy software that's hard to change. It's all cutting edge cloud-based. So we kind of solve that. And we've got the insurance. We're looking at adding other services, refinance, and maybe in a future podcast, if you invite me back, we're going to announce some new services. Really, right now, we're just focused on getting the word out and letting people know what it is. So we don't really have to sell. I don't believe in selling. I don't want to sell igloos to Eskimos. I'd rather tell them that there's such a thing as heaters and they should buy some. And, so that's really where we're at. It's just getting the word out. And that's where we're spending most of our energy and money in the coming months, so that a lot of people can have a lot more fun next summer or this year at whatever they want to do, whether they go to a festival or just camping or fishing or whatnot.
Well, we'll definitely invite you back. You're a good guest. But I have another question for you about the host. So I see RVs all the time in people's driveways, all the time. What would you say to those people to kind of put them at ease and say, hey, you can be making some money off your RV instead of just storing it for who knows what, 3/4 of the year? What would be something that you could say to them and say, look, it's not a scary thing to rent your RV out?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, the stats are privately owned RVs sit unused 49 weeks out of the year, almost 50 weeks out of the year. So that's 95% of the time. It's the same as your car. Your car sits unused 95% of the time, right? If you commute 1 hour to work and 1 hour back, that's 2 out of 24. That's about 95, 92.5 or whatever the number is percent of the time, but it's every day. RVs sit completely unused 95% of the time. Then 5% of the time they sit unused 95% of the time. So for that unused asset, you can make a lot of money. And we see different people coming in and hosting. We see people hosting who were thinking of buying an RV, were kind of borderline, were worried about the costs, and they bought it knowing they could rent it on RVnGO. We've talked to those people. And they know they've got the insurance that covers them for damage to the RV. They've got the liability insurance that covers both the guest and the host up to $1 million, and damage to the RV up to $200,000. I will mention why that's important. A lot of the hosts are out there trying to save money, and their policies, which are the same price as ours, provide $1 million liability coverage for the host, but provide often statutory minimums for the drivers. That's kind of a cheap way out there. And the statutory minimum could be $5,000 or $10,000 only.
Really?
And yeah. So you have people driving these RVs thinking they're insured. They get in an accident and it's a financial and potentially medical or physical disaster because they can't get treatment and they're not insured. And if you think as a host, you're insured in that scenario, yeah, your insurance paid out your part, but now you're going to get sued because you just told somebody you had insurance. And in fact, they had like $10,000. So that's one thing we take care of. So it's peace of mind for the host. They know both sides are covered. We're just completely upfront here. They've got coverage for the RV. There is work involved to turn it over, clean them. And we always recommend putting aside a little bit of the rental money for wear and tear and incidentals that happen. But we still see people making overwhelming profits from it, money. And what we often see is somebody trying out casually and go, oh, wow, that went really well. I'm going to start doing it full time. Oh, I made enough money. I'm buying a second RV, a third RV, a fifth RV. So we have people who don't really have, people who bought an RV thinking they're going to offset the prices and it works. And they make it back a little bit of the money and it makes it, they basically can RV for free. Or we have people who, whatever, had a life-changing event, maybe a divorce, maybe somebody got sick in the family. So we have one host, her husband became sick and, had bills starting to pile up, and they had a huge, beautiful RV in the driveway that nobody could drive anymore. So she started to rent it out to make ends meet. And now she's got 5 RVs, and could have more, but decided to kind of, stay within what she can handle and maintain. Also for the hosts, I would say beyond our insurance, there's roadside assistance that the guests can take. So it takes away some of the risk there. And some of our hosts insist on it so that there isn't an issue with towing the vehicle if there is a breakdown. That covers it. for free for the daily rate or the nightly rates that's charged. I would just say the final thing is a couple of things. First of all, we vet all the guests, all the drivers, and we verify that their driver's license is valid, et cetera. They need to talk about their driving record with us and obviously validate their payment information. And they just know ahead of time that everything is taken care of, compared to, let's say I wanted to rent my RV outside of RVnGO. Maybe I want to go to Facebook Marketplace or something like that, or just Craigslist or the local newspaper. Well, problem number one is you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
So you need to go get that. Problem number two is there's always that awkward meeting on the bridge, where you exchange the hostages. Here's the money for the keys, hopefully everything works out. The check doesn't bounce and the keys work. And so on our platform, the guests, until they check in, once they check in, even then they still have 24 hours to say, this is not as represented. I'm returning the RV, and we'll at least refund your money, and we'll try and, place you in another RV that does meet your requirements. So they have that assurance. Also, when they're shopping around on our site, their privacy is respected, and the hosts don't see them until they start, confirm the transaction, make a payment. Then we just like really Airbnb. So you're anonymous up until that point. So if you're going out and, shopping around on Facebook or Craigslist, you're giving up your personal information to start communicating, and, who knows where that'll lead. On our site, you're anonymous until you make that connection and the transaction. Then, of course, they need to be able to communicate with each other to make arrangements. Also, for the host, you're anonymous in the sense that your RV will only be listed in your zip code, and people don't know your specific address or won't see your email or phone number until, you decide to transact. And even then, they won't see your address. It's just trying to make it even more comfortable than Airbnb. When Airbnb started, like everybody thought, there's no way people are going to rent out their homes or rooms in their homes, and they do, right? So they're willing to take that step. And I think RVing, in a way, is easier because, if you want, you can arrange for pickup at your local Walmart, and, go shopping right there and, exchange the keys and et cetera. So we see that. So that's some of the things we do. And I think the final one is peer reviews. So both on CampnGo and RVnGO, we just really want to bring people closer together and kind of cut out the middlemen. And so where it's and these are legitimate reviews. It's not like, I'm not going to name any review sites that start with the letter Y, but, you never know, that review could be from employees or the owner or whatever. Right. On our site, it's a validated review. It can only be given as part of a transaction if there was a transaction. So there's none of that.
You actually have a lot of layers of safety built in on both ends. I think that's wonderful. I think that would sell anybody on the idea of right there, that there's almost risk-free. If they just want to try it, they can just try it for one time, twice, and see how it goes, and pull out and be like, nah, you know what? It wasn't really for me for whatever reason.
Yeah. And right. Or I liked it, but maybe I'm not ready to buy, so I'll just rent it again next week or next month or next year. And, I think one final thing, even Airbnb, where we're better than somebody like Airbnb, if somebody trashes the house on Airbnb, they just go create a new profile, a new account under a new Yahoo address, and off they go. If somebody, and you see this all the time, if somebody starts getting bad reviews on their property, they change the address because it's all done by the address. Now, they don't actually move the house. When you show up at the address, and I've used Airbnb quite a bit, it's like, oh, this is the key pickup management office, and they change that around. And you get the keys there, then they drive you to the house. It's like, what the heck is this? This doesn't, this isn't what I said it was or whatever. On our site, the driver has a driver's license. And so you can't get away from it. And we've got that uploaded. And the host has a VIN number. They have to have that, and it's valid. So they can't just start switching things around and go, oh, wait, that's a VIN number. We got you. So that's another nice feature.
So that was a pretty fast hour of chatting. It went by really quick. A lot of good education about RVnGO and about the rental industry in general. If people are interested either to rent an RV on RVnGO or to host an RV on RVnGO, is the best place to start just go to rvngo.com?
Absolutely. And www.rvngo.com. And there's information there. There's a help center, but there's also a 1-800 number or toll-free number you can call at the bottom. And we have a concierge team that can answer any questions, as well as, there's a little chat bot that'll come up and you're talking to a real person, not a robot. Right here beside me, the call center. So if you hear some noise in the background, that might be some of them. And, get all the information you want. And just kind of join the movement, join the family.
And then when CampnGo launches, will users be able to access that from the RVnGO site as well?
Yeah, the vision is both sites will be completely cross-linked. So at the bottom, you can just jump to either site. But when you're at a listing for an RV, you can right away see nearby campsites. If you're looking at campsites, you can kind of see in a window all the RVs and the view of the campsite if we have data on it, even if we're not. So it's all going to be integrated really between the platforms, and you can go one way or the other.
All right. So for everybody listening, and if you have an RV and you would like to rent it out, or if you're looking for an RV, go down to our show notes and we will have a link that will jump you right to the RVnGO website, and keep an eye out for CampnGo in the near future.
Yeah, that'd be great. We hope to see you here.
Well, thanks so much, Paul. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right, everyone. This concludes the interview with Paul Kacir. RVnGO sounds like it is going to be a one-stop shop for those wanting to rent their RV, folks wanting to rent an RV, and those looking for a campground. Please check out their website, rvngo.com, for more information and to learn more about the programs. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and rate it on whatever platform you are listening to this. Happy Thanksgiving if you are in the U.S., and we will be back in 2 weeks with another episode.
This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety. So go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.